All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. And what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to take you out in the shop in a minute, and we're going to go over how I make these Cowboy hot dog cookers, and I sell them. And I've got an order for 6 of them right now. I'm going to make 2 of them. The rest of them I already have made, and then I have got horseshoes that I need to package up and ship that I sold to, a couple of people, and I've got stuff like that to do. It's my day off. But before I get started, I had some questions. One of them was, hey, what's the deal with, the background? And I go, well, I have that welder, the Miller-Matic 211. There's nothing wrong. There's lots of good welders out there. I just put the picture up to fill in the background, and I do favor it. I did a lot of research before I chose the welder I wanted to buy. And I bought it from a friend of mine. Her husband works out at Airgas. I got a good deal on it, so I went ahead and bought it. And about a month later, I bought my plasma cutter, but since sold that. But there's plenty of good welders out there. We did a review, Justin and I, and against his, titanium. I think it's a 170. And he came down, and we hooked his welder up. We hooked mine, and we did some welding. And I think the reaction in the end, which may seem a little unfair, but I want to make a comment. It's kind of like, well, yours is a much more powerful machine. Yeah, it is. But his welder would do everything, that I threw at mine. It may not do it, with the same power. I get it. But his welder would do the same thing. So, if you're a hobbyist, there's nothing wrong, with those welders. That titanium I thought was a well-built welder. It performed well. I used it. Well, it was a good welder. And like I said, I'm sure there's plenty of others out there. And if you haven't checked it out yet, go to Justin Dow on your YouTube search, or you can take a look at mine. Now, he did a much more better job, let's say, of putting together the video on the Miller-Matic, versus the titanium. And you can go through it. And it's just, comparing those 2 welders, which, like I said, may seem a little unfair because I don't own all the welders out there. You have Hobart, Lincoln. I have a friend of mine that's got a Lincoln welder. It's a great welder. So nothing against those. But we're going to go out in the shop in a minute, and I'll show you some of the things that I do. But I get lots of emails sometimes where I don't have any horseshoes. You can contact me. I'll leave you my email address. I sell horseshoes. I give you a little bit of a discount, or I add in some extra stuff when people buy them and they're subbed to my channel. The other thing, sometimes they'll say I don't have the ability to heat up and bend railroad ties or stuff like that. And I said, well, just tell me what you can do and what you can't do, and I'll do the parts of it that you cannot do. And I'll send you the stuff in one of these USPS boxes, which is what I use, because those flat rate boxes are actually about the cheapest way, there is to ship. So that's what I do. And I do lots of projects like that, sell lots of things locally, but I also ship out a lot of things. So if you're in need of the railroad spikes and the horseshoes, like I said, contact me. Now, before we get started and we get into the shop, there's part of the video that got deleted. And what I wanted to tell you, somebody goes, well, when it comes to abrasive wheels, what do you use? Well, I did a whole video on that. The 2 primary wheels that I'll use are flap wheels, which go from 40 grit, 60, 80, 120, whatever. And I use the 60 and the 80 frequently. I also use cutoff wheels. Now, there's nothing wrong with the ones you get out at Harbor Freight. I just don't think they last all that long. And there's nothing wrong with the cutoff wheels. I think Warrior makes them that you get out there, and I have those. And when I get a chance and I see that there's a good sale, I buy Benchmark flap wheel sanding discs, and I buy Benchmark cutoff wheels. So I just got in a shipment of them. I paid, I'll look at the cost and I'll leave it in the link below to where you can get these too. And I bought a package of 50 of them, and they look like this. And let's see if I can get up there closer. All right, so it's 2 stacks that were like this. This one's still in the packaging. I got the single disc out so I could just show you better. I favor these. There's other brands out there that are equally as good. DeWalt, all these people make them. I'm sure they're equally as good. but I think I paid around 65 cents a piece for these when I got 50 of them. I'll take a look at the price. I mean, I'll let you know. But look, there's nothing wrong with these other ones. But somebody asked, you know, which ones do I favor? And I'm pretty loyal, I mean, to Benchmark. Now, people criticize Benchmark, but I don't know what they're using them on, and I don't know how they're abusing them or whatever else. They're not grinding wheels, they're cutoff wheels. What I like about these, if you take a good close look, it has a metal ring in the middle. And that's a lot better, I think, and it's a lot safer when you're securing these in a 4.5-inch angle grinder before use. That's my opinion. These are what works for me. It's what I use. So what I do is I do a lot of tool reviews and I do a lot of how-tos. Justin's channel, he goes real heavy into tool reviews and stuff like that. So check him out if you get a chance. For right now, let's go ahead. I'm going to change the screen totally. We're going to go out to the shop. Like I said, the first part of this video, I don't know what errored out on my camera, but we're going to pick it up from the second part where I describe to you exactly what I use. They're not expensive hand tools. I bought them that way because I wasn't sure how much I was going to get into this stuff. And then you can always upgrade from there. All right, enough talking. Let's get out there. Here we go. Okay, let's recap here on our little project that I'm shipping out. So I welded a horseshoe to a horseshoe, and that created his whole lower torso and a stand. And then I used a railroad spike right here that was bent because I heated it up with a torch and I bent it. So one of the questions I got is, can you use MAP gas and do the same thing? No, it won't work. You're not going to get it hot enough. I used oxyacetylene, okay? And I bent this and I cut off, you know, the spike part where it tapers at the bottom, and I welded it to the back of the horseshoe here. Then I took these arms and I just put them in a vise, no heat. I used a big heavy duty hammer, and I'm going to go over the tools with you in a minute. And I bent his hand up a little bit on both of these, and I drilled a hole with my drill press, or you can use a hand drill. And then I used steel wire to create the rope. Okay, so then for the hat, I got a piece of just sheet steel laying around, and I cut a teardrop. Then I used my 4.5-inch angle grinder with a flap wheel, and I shaped it. Then I drilled a hole through the center of it, a decent sized hole, and then I set my MIG welder up fairly hot, and then I welded that onto the railroad spike. Then I put a nut on here and I filled it with MIG weld, and that was it. And so this completes the hot dog cooker, and I'll ship the testicles and the penis part separately, and the guy will put them on however he wants, and the hot dog will sit over it. It'll sit on the grill. The heat will travel up through the metal, cook it from the inside out, and then with the barbecue lid shut, it'll also cook it on the outside, and you won't get all those char marks and stuff like that. It's more of a novelty thing than anything. People get a kick out of them. I've sold a lot of them. Mainly what I do in terms of, other than people at work, I get a lot of people that are my subscribers. They write to me and they buy the individual parts from me. I think I mentioned it earlier in the video. I'll sell you the horseshoes, I'll sell you the railroad spikes. You could do it yourself. I give you a little bit of discount, or I throw extras into the shipment if you're one of my subscribers. You can do it yourself. Guy wrote to me and said, look, I don't have any way to bend the railroad spikes. Okay, so he bought like 10 railroad spikes from me, and I bent all 10, and I cut the bottoms off. I gave him a fair price, and they shipped. But everything I ship USPS because it's cheaper. It's a much better way for me to go. So I keep things small that way so they're able to fit into those boxes. That's how I've been doing it in terms of shipping product out. What else? I can do, you know, coat hangers out of horseshoes. I just basically cut the horseshoe down the middle and weld half onto another horseshoe. Or we can do any combination of things, you know, for you. So sell them lots of different ways. You can do this too. These are easy ways to make money. Now, I don't make a living doing this. I have a full-time job like everybody else, but this fuels my hobby. I make pretty decent money off of selling the parts or doing part of the fabrication work. Some people want to do an all or nothing thing. No, I make the whole thing. I charge you this amount of money, take it or leave it. It doesn't matter to me. I'll do part of the project, all of it. You know, you just write to me and tell me how I can help you. Now, that's what I'll try to do. Other things, I mean, I ship separately. It's like this. This is like a torch holder, whether you're using oxyacetylene, MIG, TIG, whatever you're using. and it's magnetized on the bottom. And I got a video showing you how I made this. And I had 2 people write me and said, hey, I don't want to go through the trouble. Can you make them for me? How much? I gave them a price, and you can get the base out at Harbor Freight. All this is bed frame railing, and this is just a piece of pipe I literally cut in half. So once I cut that pipe in half, I actually make 2 of these. So I mean, it worked out pretty good. So you can do lots of smaller things like that for people and make money. What I would encourage you to buy and to do is, when you're out at Harbor Freight, get yourself a pair of pliers. Okay, I keep them up here. I abuse the heck out of these things. I don't care. They weren't that expensive. They're pliers, but they also have this hole cut in there, which is real good for undoing MIG tips or tightening or snugging them back on, or just holding steel. Now, I would tell you, get yourself MIG pliers. This is what I call them. You have wire cutters here. You have another piece here that'll hold that MIG tip, do the same thing that we just talked about. It's got a little bit of knurling up in here where you can grab like a nut or something and loosen it. But if that shield on your MIG gun gets all corroded with slag and all that stuff, if you take the shield off, you slide this into it and twist it like this, and all that comes off, and it's clean. It's part of the prep work before you start welding, and this makes it fast and easy to do. So these 2 tools, I mean, are very inexpensive for you to get and have. What else would I suggest? Well, the biggest thing for you is going to be the expense of the welder. After the welder, okay, things get much less expensive. Buy good quality MIG wire. You can get away with the cheap stuff. I'm not saying you can't for small projects like, you know, in and around the house, but I buy good MIG wire. I get a discount from Airgas for Radnor wire. You can go to Home Depot, or a lot of times I buy it off Amazon. I buy Lincoln wire. Lincoln makes outstanding wire, I think, you know. So I'm kind of a loyal customer to Lincoln and to Radnor, and that's kind of what I stick with. Get yourself a good 4.5-inch angle grinder, a good one, not the Harbor Freight kind. They're junk. Get yourself a DeWalt, a Milwaukee, a Makita, a Bosch. Get something like that. Even if you got to save up your money, you won't be disappointed. Get flap wheels. There's plenty of them. Benchmark makes them. I keep talking about Benchmark. I buy all of my sanding flap discs from there, as well as, when I can, I buy my cutoff wheels from there. And I think I showed you that in the earlier part of this video, but I'll leave the link below. So those you're going to need. I mean, having a good cutoff wheel on a 4.5-inch angle grinder, I mean, really makes things more fun and speeds things up. What else would I get? I would buy some magnets when you're out at Harbor Freight. I've got both the small and the large. They're not that expensive. They work great as a third hand. Like when I was doing these and I want to hold that arm up, I would build like a bridge or the scaffolding. It would hold it with enough force or enough strength for me to create and tack weld and get that tack welded. Then I can take these away and finish welding them. And they also come in handy if you're doing frames, if you're welding like the frame for a table. This gives you that 90. Now the other thing I would tell you besides these while you're out there, and you can buy this stuff very cheaply until you see how much you're going to get into it. Buy a good tape measure, I mean a good one. And I think I've got a Milwaukee and a DeWalt tape measure laying around. They're very accurate, they're very good tape measures. But also get yourself a metal steel square. That's what the word I was looking for, square. Because when you do the frames of tables or you're doing legs, you want things to be square, and these things help you a tremendous amount. And they're not that expensive. When you're out there, pick up for like 10 cents each. I got these soapstone things, markers for metal you can mark. I don't need anything super fancy. I don't need the paint sticks. I did use the paint sticks, like I said, I think in a previous video, when I was using my plasma cutter. I've since sold it. I'll get another one downstream. Then I might go back to the paint markers because they don't smear and disappear, the lines. But these are really good for cutting, okay, and just cutting steel real quickly. So besides that, I mean, what other things, you know, could I recommend to you to buy? Get yourself some C-clamps. C-clamps from out at Harbor Freight, wherever you want to get them. I picked up a bunch of them at an estate sale for like next to nothing, but get yourself some C-clamps. You get yourself some vice grips. I've got a few different kinds. I've got ordinary looking vice grips. I have these. I got these out at Harbor Freight. They're made by Pittsburgh. They come in real good if I want to really anchor down and hold a piece of sheet metal to my table for cutting or something like that. So I've got 3 or 4 of these sitting around. I've got the small ones, I've got the large ones, you got your vice grips. These are all inexpensive tools. Now you can buy other ones, the clamps, much bigger clamps. Just make sure they're made out of metal. I had somebody write me, I don't know what they were doing. I mean, they went out and bought one and it had, like, you know, the plastic cushiony pads on them. Those are more for wood. I mean, wonder why you tore them up. Well, because they're not going to withstand the heat. It's, you know, it's kind of that simple. Get a wire brush. Now I use a lot of wire wheels. I use an actual wire brush much less than ever, but I use wire wheels, and I have a wire wheel on my bench grinder. So those are faster and it's easier for me. I want to get everything cleaned up, you know, pre-cut, assembled, and ready to go, and then, you know, you get into having the fun welding and not spending all of your time sitting there with a wire brush. But wire brushes have a purpose. They come in handy. Somebody said, what about a chipping hammer? Well, if you're arc welding or you're doing anything like that, I suppose it's real handy. I don't use those so much anymore because I've got super coarse wire wheels all the way down to fine wire wheels. Between the two, it takes care of everything for me. What I did find with those chipping hammers out at Harbor Freight, they ran about $5 each. You guys do 20%, you know, coupon and all this stuff. I got them a little bit cheaper. As I cut the heads off of them, and then I bent the shaft part of it at 90 degrees, and they made great cooking handles for barbecues. So, you know, I can think of other uses for things too, but if you need a chipping hammer, then, you know, you should go ahead, pick one up. My other biggest tip for you is buy yourself extra MIG tips. I've got 025, 030, 035, and I use 030 and 025 probably the most, but I have 3 sets of tips. And if I ever damage one, I'm not stuck. I mean, I have that backup tip. Just reach in the box, grab it. When they run low, I'll get another box. They're inexpensive. And you can get those at Harbor Freight. I have had no problem whatsoever buying Harbor Freight MIG gun tips. They work perfectly fine. I don't see any point in spending all the extra money at the welding supply store, you know, or anything like that. And like I said, then you buy good MIG wire, and then, you know, you do the simple maintenance things that we talked about in the previous videos. You're going to have a lot of fun. This is what we did today. 4 boxes of horseshoes, all denailed using the Benchmark cutoff wheels. I mean, it just zips through them. There's nothing wrong with the Harbor Freight ones. I just found with the Benchmark, they seem to cut faster and easier. I don't know, maybe it's just me, or maybe in fact it is just a better quality wheel. They're the ones that I prefer. I think the price came out to be about 60 cents each if you do the dividing when you buy 50 of them at a time. The Harbor Freight ones run you closer to $1. Do they work? Yes. Will they work for me? Yeah, they do, because I do use them. But these are the projects. You can make money with this stuff too. You can make coat hangers out of horseshoes. Leave one horseshoe the way it is, cut the other one in half, weld it on there like a hook. You can make them for the garage to drape, you know, extension cables over, mount them on a piece of wood, make a coat rack. I've got so many videos, I think, in there now that if you scroll back through these, you're bound to find a project. So, video cut out on me, but take a look back through my playlists and stuff. You'll find a video, you'll find something that you say, hey, I can do that, or I can do that, but I don't understand how he did this. And then write me. I'll answer you. I try to answer everybody's questions. As long as your comments aren't anything negative, I'll answer them. If they're negative, I delete them, and I don't pay any attention to you anyway. So, you know, but we're all about helping each other. If you have a better way, drop me a comment, let me know. So that's kind of it for this video. I'll see what happens over the weekend, and we will get into another project. I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you folks click subscribe. Drop me a comment below. Don't forget to look in the link below. I'm going to leave you the links for Benchmark and for the other things that I talked about. For the hammers, all of this stuff, a lot of it I got out at Harbor Freight when I first started because I didn't know if I was going to get into this and I didn't want to spend the money. I'm still using them. I mean, they work great. There's nothing wrong with them. Not the magnets, not any of this stuff. So it's up to you. Anyway, I'll see you folks on the next video. Have a great day, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.